am going to veer away from my usual content to give you a Christmas gift. I have a recipe for a cake that has been in my family for generations. I am pretty sure that no one out there has ever had this cake outside of my family. I've tried to find the recipe online and it doesn't exist. So one of my ancestors made up this recipe for this cake called walnut slice. And I am not lying when I say it is. Here is the recipe for walnut slice. Start with half a cup of soft butter, half a cup of white sugar, half a cup of flour, and a cup of flour, so a cup and a half of flour. I'm starting to question if I'm coordinated enough to talk and make this video of this recipe at the same time, but I'm gonna keep trying because you're gonna love this cake. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/4 cup of milk or cream, and 2 egg yolks, just the yolks. I've separated these out and I've saved the whites because that's going to make the topping for this cake. So 2 egg yolks in the bowl. Now we're gonna mix it all up. I have this all mixed up. The batter is not gonna look like regular cake batter. It's very thick, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to look. I have preheated my oven to 350, and I am going to spread this in a greased 8x8 pan. Now, my mom swears that you're supposed to use a metal pan, but I don't happen to have one, so I'm using glass, and we'll see how it turns out. If you use a glass pan, sometimes the middle of it is not gonna be really well cooked. So we'll see how it works. Hopefully it'll be okay. This all spread into my pan, but we're not gonna bake this yet. We're gonna set this aside and we're gonna make the topping. This is called walnut slice, so obviously we need walnuts. So I am going to chop up walnuts. We want a cup of chopped walnuts. I've got my cup of chopped walnuts. I'm setting those aside, and now I'm gonna beat the 2 egg whites that I reserved. And here's a fun fact. You never want to beat egg whites in a plastic bowl. You always want metal or glass, or your egg whites are not going to whip up because there's residue on the plastic bowl. So there's a little helpful baking tip for you. So I'm gonna use my mixer here with the whisk attachments, and I'm going to whip this up until it forms stiff peaks. I have whipped my egg whites into stiff peaks. That's what she said. And I'm gonna add a cup of brown sugar packed. And here's another little fun fact. If you put a bread crust in your container with your brown sugar, it will keep it from getting hard. That's also what she said. Stop it. So I'm gonna take my brown sugar and I'm going to dump it in my egg whites, and I'm gonna use a spatula to just gently blend it. You don't wanna make your egg whites go soft. That's what she said. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my walnuts and I am gonna blend those in too, just ever so gently. You're gonna lose a little bit of the volume on your egg whites, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, you know, maintain its stiffness. That's what she said. I just can't stop. I can't stop myself. Okay, so I have my brown sugar and walnuts blended into my meringue, my egg whites, and I am going to now just dump this on top of my batter in my cake pan. And I'm going to spread this out. Okay, so I have my batter in here. I've got my topping spread out nicely, and I'm gonna pop this in the oven for about 25 minutes. Okay, this is what it looks like when it first comes out of the oven, and I'm gonna let this cool a little bit. And this is what it looks like when you cut into it. And it is so good. The cake is not really very sweet, but the topping is so sweet. Not kidding, to die for. I am a hospice nurse. I did have to put a little death knot in there. So amazing.